A lot of the artists I work with reach out at the same point. The track's finished, but it never quite sounds right everywhere. Car, headphones, laptop, something's always off. That's usually when mastering comes into the picture. I help synth and electronic tracks translate properly without changing the character you've worked hard on. If you're curious, there's a synth music mastering link in the show notes. And as a thank you for listening, there's a 20% discount. Just mention the code POD when you request a quote when you're ready. If you've ever opened your DAW, scrolled through hundreds of plugins and still had no idea which one to use, you, my friends, are not alone. And the problem isn't that you don't own the right plugin.
You're listening to the Inside the Mix podcast with your host, Marc Matthews.
Welcome to Inside the Mix, the podcast where beginner music producers learn how to turn rough ideas into polished mixes without feeling overwhelmed. I'm Marc Matthews, and each episode breaks down music production and mixing concepts into clear, practical steps you can actually use in your own tracks. No jargon and no guesswork. So if you want to understand why your mixes, your productions sound the way they do, and how to improve them one step at a time, you, my friends, are in the right place. Hit follow and let's dive in. So in this episode, I am going to be using a new free VST plugin for the first time, and it is Surge XT. So a quick disclaimer on this episode is not in any way, shape or form sponsored by the folks at Surge XT. This is just my initial thoughts, opinions on the product, the software synth itself. And this came about through a comment left on episode 209, which is where I actually had a look at Vital for the first time. And the comment was, it was my go-to before it crashed a few times on my weird Linux setup, and I dove into Surge XT instead, which is another excellent free open source synth. Never used it before. This is me, by the way. So I thought, you know what? I will dedicate an episode to Surge XT. I love helping producers find free software synths, or just free plugins in general, to be honest, to enhance their music production arsenal. And by the end of this episode, you won't just know what Surge XT can do from a foundational level. You'll know how to decide whether any plugin deserves a place in your workflow, and in particular, Surge XT. I'll put a link to the actual website where you can download Surge XT in the show notes. Upon opening Surge XT for the first time, the interface, there's quite a lot going on, to be fair. You've got your oscillators, you've got your envelope section, there's the LFO section, modulation section. There is a lot going on. There are a lot of dials. I say dials, it's mainly sliders, to be honest. I can't really see any dials. So mainly there's a lot of sliders to contend with. And the first thing I actually did was, if you go to menu and go to skins, you've got Surge Dark, and it looks infinitely better for me. And I use it in Logic Pro, and it seems to suit the aesthetic of Logic as well. But for me, it just looks a lot more sleek and professional with that particular skin. So if you are using it for the first time and you're anything like me, I do find that the GUI, the interface itself, does help with regards to my navigation of the product. Go to the menu, bottom right, go to skins and then Surge Dark. You'll also find tutorials here as well. So using it for the first time, I thought, you know what? I won't go through the patches. I'll just go straight in to creating a sound. And I was working on a tune. It's kind of this old school house with a bit of dance pop, quite dark EDM tune, and I thought, you know what, I want some high strings in the build. So what I did was I loaded Surge XT, and then one MIDI note this is in the key of A minor, and at the moment it sounds like this. Let's create some high strings using Surge XT. So at the moment, I've got the initialized preset. So if you go up to the main menu at the top where it will say init saw, you can click on initialized patch. And I said preset, but it's patch in this instance. And I've got my oscillator, and I'm going to select, if you go to classic under oscillator, we've got modern sawtooth. So let's go with that. So I've got a modern sawtooth, and I'm going to play it. And I'm going to increase, you've got unison voices. Now, the great thing is when you do create a patch in a software synth, for the most part, you can take what you've learned in other, because I use Serum a lot. I'd probably say 75 to 80% of my sound design is in Serum. But a lot of what I do in there I can take over to other software synths like Surge XT. So I'm just going to increase the unison voices to about 4. Okay, so that's what I've got so far. So what I'm then going to do is I've got my second oscillator, and you need to come down to this oscillator section to the right of the oscillator window, which is on the left, and unmute it. And again, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go classic sawtooth this time. So I've got some slight variance in the two sawtooths that I've used. And then I'm going to put that with 4 voices as well. So let's give that a play. Next, what I want to do is slightly detune each oscillator. So looking over here, we've got unison detune. So I'm going to drag that to, I've got it set to 12 cents for oscillator 2. And oscillator 1, I'm going to set it to, let's go to 13, see how that sounds. Oh, that's way out. Let's drag that back a bit. I'm going to go to 9 for oscillator 1. Probably going to drag it back a bit as well for oscillator 2. Let's go to 7, around about 7 for oscillator 2. Okay, I dragged that up to about 9 there. So that's detuning it, which is starting to take shape now. So I'm just going to play it again. Cool. I'm just going to play with the envelope a bit. So we've got this amplitude envelope section. You can switch between a digital and an analog by the looks of things. Envelope. Let's go with analog. And I'm just going to increase the attack just a touch to about 6 milliseconds. I might bring the sustain down a bit. Yeah, the sustain's at about 90% there. Next, what I want to do is I want high strings, right? So let's increase the oscillator. Let's go up a couple octaves. Oscillator 2, I've gone up to 2 octaves. Oscillator 1, let's go up 2 octaves. I'm going to bring the global volume down because I don't want to destroy your ears. That wasn't quite where I want it to be, so I'm going to increase it to 3 octaves, or plus 3 basically, on oscillator 1, and the same on oscillator 2. So let's play that now. I'm going to bring the global volume down again because I don't want to destroy your ears because it's going to be quite high, right? I've gone up 3 octaves. So it's getting there. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use the filter envelope. So we've got this envelope section. You've got filter 1 and filter 2 basically. So for filter 1, I'm going to select a low pass 12 dB filter on this one here. So let's enable that. And I'm going to play it, and obviously it's a low pass, so it's going to remove, the preset on this is just above 500 hertz, so I'll play it. Very quiet. Well done if you can hear that. I'm just going to gradually open that filter up now, so I'm going to drag it to the right. So the cool thing is you could modulate that if you wanted to, using the LFO. I'm not going to do that today, but you could do that. It does also have macros in here as well, which I probably would create a macro for the filter cutoff. But I do like just to roll off a bit at the top there for that filter. So the final thing I kind of want to add here, in fact, let's play it as it is before I add any time-based processing to this, which would be my next step. So I'll play it in the context of the mix. And it probably will be too loud, so I'll drag it down if it is. There we go. I dragged that down, the global volume, to about -22 because I like it just to be audible. So I'll play it with and without. So this is without. And this is with. There you go. It's getting there. So I'm going to solo it again now. I'm just going to increase the global volume on this. So that's at the top right. And what I'm going to add now is I'm going to add some chorus. So in this effects section, I'm still playing around with this and getting used to how all this works. But if you click on Insert Effects 2, it's got set here. I want 1. There you go. So it's got like this routing matrix you can click on. You can then select the effect that you want to go in that particular position. So you can see actually how it's going to run through this signal chain. And I want some chorus. What have we got in here? There's a number of presets. Let's go like a pad. Let's see how that sounds. Probably too much. I'm just going to increase the global volume again. So I settled on about 27% there. The next one I'm going to do is I'm going to add some reverb. So this is going to be my second effect. I like to use a plate reverb. What have we got? There's a silver plate. A dark plate. I probably don't want a dark plate because I'm going to hazard a guess and say that will roll off the top end and it's high strings. So I don't want that. Repro plate. Let's try that. The reason I'm using reverb is just to soften it. So I'm going to... It automatically comes in at 100%, so I'm going to drag it down until it gets to where I want it to be. And that's about 30%. So let's play it in the context of the mix. Nice. So what's happened there is because I've had the time-based processing, now I don't have to reduce the volume so much because it's softened the sound and pushed it back in terms of the mix itself. So I probably need to boost it a bit more. So that sounded quite cool. And that really is a quick way to create high strings in Surge XT. There's a lot of flexibility in this soft synth. And in this episode, today when I'm recording this, is the first time I've ever used it. But I did want some high strings for this project, so I thought I'll give it a go with Surge XT. And I'm going to continue with these. So these probably will end up in the final track when it's released with a bit more tweaking. So let's play this whole build section with these high strings. So folks, as a quick recap of what we've done, we've gone from this to this. There we go, folks. That is a whistle-stop walkthrough of creating high strings in Surge XT. And it's a very, very nice software synth. I really do like what I've seen so far, particularly from a visual perspective when you change the skin to the dark mode, as it's I think it was called. So do that. I do recommend doing that. It looks a lot better. And for me, I don't know what it is. It's a psychological thing, but it makes it more accessible for me. So my challenge to you this week, replace one synth in one of your productions with Surge XT and see how you get on. Click the link in the show notes and download Surge XT. Remember, this episode is not sponsored by the guys at Surge XT. It's just my thoughts and opinions. So please, this is not a sponsored episode. They don't know that I'm putting this together, but hopefully they'll enjoy it nonetheless. So my question to you as well, what free plugin do you actually use, not just own? Click the send me a message in the show notes and let me know, and I'll give you a shout out on a future episode. And if you've enjoyed this episode, check out episode 209, where I use Vital for the first time, another free software synth. So do go and check out that episode as well. And don't forget, click the link in the episode description and grab my free weekly music production and mixing tips direct to your inbox. No fluff, no automated email chains. It's just a nice short email from me once a week with some tips and tricks to enhance and kick on with your music production. So until the next episode, keep creating, keep mixing, and I'll see you in the next one. The biggest change people mention after mastering isn't loudness, it's confidence. They stop tweaking, stop second guessing, and actually enjoy listening to their track again. If you want to take the next step, check the link in the show notes and request a quote. And if you include the code POD in your message, there's a 20% listener thank you discount.